All right, welcome again to Royal Tutors. We're going to be providing solutions to AQA Foundation filtered question. This is part two of the video. All right, so let's get right into it. A linear sequence has the first term to be 10, the first and second term is 39. We want to work out what the fifth term would look like. All right, good. So since the first term is 10, and we also know that the first term plus the second term is 39. So it means that the first term is 10 plus the second term, we don't know what the second term is. Let's assume that is x is equal to 39. So what it means is that x is obviously going to be 39, take away 10, and that's 29. It means that the second term actually is 29. So if the first term is 10 and the second term is 29, you agree with me that this is increasing by 19 because 10 plus 19 will give me 29. So this 19 is actually called what we call the common difference. So it means that as a linear sequence, this sequence keeps increasing by 19. So if I want to get the third term, what I do is the second term plus 19, which happens to be the common difference. And that's going to be 29 plus 19, which would give me 48. 48. To get the fourth term also is going to be the third term plus another 19, and that's going to be 48 plus 19, and 48 plus 19 will give me 67. 67. And finally, the question that we asked to solve, which is the fifth term, and the fifth term is going to give me the fourth term plus what I call the common difference, which is 19. So 67 plus 19 is going to give me 86. All right, so that's going to be the fifth term of that particular linear sequence. So it's called the linear sequence because it increases by adding a particular term, or it decreases by subtracting a particular term. That's what the word linear sequence means. And of course, we have linear sequence, we have exponential sequence, we have quadratic sequence. But for this question, we just basically looked at um, linear sequence. I believe that is very clear. So to get that, you just keep adding a particular term that happens to be the difference. We call it the common difference. So you keep adding it to whatever term that you have, and you need to get what we have there. Right. So the next question, it's also 4 marks. All right, so this question states that 11 identical full tins of red paint. So 11 tins of red paint holds a total of 3,630 milliliters. So one tin of red paint now, one tin of red paint would actually be 3,630 divided by 11. I think this should be 330 milliliters. So it means that one tin of red paint is going to be holding 330 milliliters. So all the paint from 4 of these tins is poured into an empty bucket. So it means that 4 tins of red paint was poured into an empty bucket. So if I'm doing that, that's going to be 330 multiplied by 4. And what's 330 multiplied by, sorry, that should be multiplied by 4. That's 1,320 milliliters. That means inside the empty bucket, 1,320 milliliters had been occupied with red paint already. Now, they said the bucket can only hold 2,500 milliliters. So, if the bucket can hold 2,500 and we have already poured 1,320 in the bucket, so what's the remaining space? what is the remaining space that we have. So how do we do that? It's going to be the remaining now, or the remainder, whichever case it is going to be 2,500 milliliters minus 1,320 milliliters. And this is going to be 1,180 milliliters. That's 2,500 minus 1,320. So we have 1,180 milliliters. And of this 1,180 milliliters, that is the remaining capacity. Yeah, the remaining capacity. The tins of white paint that the tins of white paint hold 140 millimeters. So can all the white paint from 9 tins, so if of white paint, one tin of white paint holds 140 milliliters. So 9 tins now of white paint is going to be 140 milliliters multiplied by 9. And what's 140 multiplied by 9? 140 multiplied by 9 is 1,260 millimeters. And don't forget, the remaining capacity, let me add that to it, the remaining capacity is 1,180. Remaining capacity is 1,180, and 9 tins of white paint would take the capacity of 1,260 millimeters. So can all the white paint from 9 tins be added to the bucket? I think we have our answer. The answer will be no, not all the white paints, not all the white paints from 9 tins can be added to the bucket, because we are still going to, because the capacity of the bucket after pouring 4 tins of red paint is 1,320. Sorry, yes, and the remaining capacity out of the 2,500 milliliter is 1,180. So 140 multiplied by 9 is going to be 1,260, and that will be too much for the remaining capacity that we have. I hope that is clear. Right, so let's move straight into the next question that we have. 480 people are asked if they eat sushi. 20% say yes. What does that mean? If 20% says yes, it means 20% of the total number of people that we have, which is 480. So how do we do that? 20% of 480 simply means 20 over 100 multiplied by 480 over 1. So we can say 0 cancel 0, 0 cancel 0. So it means that 2 multiplied by 48 would give me 96. So it means that 96 people already say that they eat sushi. That's 96 already. So if out of 480, 96 eat sushi, so how many of them do not eat sushi? We can just subtract. This is going to be 7. 10 take away 10 take away 6 is 4. Then of course this is 17. 17 take away 9 is going to be 8. And we have 384. That means 384 of them do not eat sushi. All right. So if 2 over 3 of the people who say yes eat sushi at least once a month, so how many people actually said yes they eat sushi? 96 people. So 2 over 3 of the people that say yes to sushi is just going to be 2 over 3 multiplied by 96 over 1. 2 over 3 multiplied by 96 over 1. So we can say 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 3 in 96 is 32. Of course, 2 times 32 is going to give me 64. So it means that only 64 people agree that they eat sushi at least once a month. So out of 96, we have 64 here already. So how many people do not eat sushi at least once a month? So all we just have to do is just say 96 take away 64. Of course, that is going to be 32, which is 1/3 of the other people. So 32. So with this, we have been able to complete this frequency tree. considering the fact that 480 people is the total number of people that eat sushi. So we realized that it was split into two. Some say yes, they eat. Some say no, they don't eat at all. So 20% of the people that of the total people say they eat, and that's going to be 20 over 100 multiplied by 480. That's how we got 96. So out of that 96, two-thirds of them also say that they eat it at least once a month, and two-thirds of 96 is going to be 64. And of course, the remaining people would not eat it at least once a month. All right, so let's move on to the next question. This is another question which is 4 marks. The length of this rectangle is 6 times the width. Of course, the width that we have here is x and the length is 6x. So 6 multiplied by x is of course going to give us 6x. So two of these rectangles are joined with no overlap to make this L shape that we can see right on the screen. Very good. So the perimeter of the L shape is 98.8 centimeter. Work out the perimeter of work out the value of the perimeter of one of the rectangles. Beautiful, amazing question that we have here. So let's try to fill up some of these spaces that we have. So of course, this is x, and from the beginning here to this point is 6x, just like we have. So of course, this is also going to be 6x. This is x. A full length here is also 6x. This is also going to be x. But what's going to be the length from this point to this point? You will agree with me that the whole length from, okay, let me try to change the ink of this so you get to see what I'm talking about. The whole length from this point to this point is 6x. 6x is the whole length. But from here to here is x. So of course, the remaining length here is going to be what? 5x. That's one of the beauty of this question. So you have to be very, very careful and make sure that you understand that this point is 5x, the distance is 5x. And we know that perimeter of any shape is actually the distance traveled round the particular shape. Remember, perimeter of any shape is the distance traveled round the particular shape. So if I want to find the perimeter of the L shape now, it means that I'm going to add all the sides together. So let's say I'm starting from this particular point. That's going to be x plus, I've covered this, I'm covering this next. That's going to be what? 6x plus, I'm covering this next. That's what? 5x plus, I'm moving back to this. That's x. Moving back again is what? 6x. This small place is x. Cover back to the initial point where we started from is 6x. So by the time I add all of these things together, the question says that the perimeter of the L shape is 96.8 centimeters. 98.8. Sorry about that. That's supposed to be a 98.8. All right, 98.8. So what do we do at this junction? I'm going to add everything together. What's x plus 6x? That's 7x plus 5x, that's 12x plus x, that's 13x. 13x plus 6x is 19x. 19x plus x is 20x, and 20x plus 6x is what? 26x is going to be 98.8 centimeters. Of course, we can divide both sides by 26. So we have that x is 98.8 divided by 26, and that's going to be 3.8 centimeters. So it means that the value of x is 3.8 centimeters, but we are not done. The question says work out the value of the perimeter of one of the rectangles, and we know that the rectangle actually looks like this. This is of course 6x and this is x. So like I said again, the perimeter is the distance traveled round the particular shape. So perimeter now of rectangle is going to be that I'm going to add all the sides together, which will be 6x plus x plus 6x plus x. So 6x plus x is 7x. 6x plus x again is 7x. 7x plus 7x makes it a total of 14x. But remember that we have found our x to be 3.8. So we're going to multiply 14 multiplied by 3.8. 14 times 3.8 is obviously going to give us 53.2 53.2 centimeters. So that's going to be the perimeter of one of the rectangles. So I believe that is very clear. That's the perimeter of one of the rectangles. So I can go over that again to make sure that it is very, very clear. And the last question that we have here, here is a triangle. What kind of triangle is this? This is called a right. This is called angled, a right angled triangle. And what's this right angle triangle? Why is it right angle triangle? It's basically because one of its angle is 90 degrees. So we have to use Pythagoras theorem to work out the value of y. And what is our Pythagoras theorem? Pythagoras theorem. Pythagoras theorem states that the square of the longest side of a right angle triangle, which is called the hypotenuse, so the square of that is equal to the sum of the square of the other two sides, which is the opposite and the adjacent. So we can take this as the opposite and this being the adjacent. So we have that the hypotenuse, of course, is 14 centimeter. Sorry about that. The hypotenuse is 14 centimeters. The adjacent is 9 centimeters and the opposite is y. So the hypotenuse is 14, so this is going to be 14 centimeter all squared is equal to the opposite, which is y squared, plus adjacent is 9 centimeter all squared. All right, good. So we can therefore see that y squared will be equals to 14 centimeter all squared minus 9 centimeter all squared. So y will be equals to, what's 14 centimeters squared? That's 196 centimeters squared minus 81 centimeters squared. So what's 196 take away 81? 196 take away 81. That's 115 centimeters squared. So don't forget that y squared is equal to 115 centimeters squared. So to get y, that's going to be square root of 115 centimeters squared. So y will just be equal to the square root of 115 centimeters. So let's check that. Square root of 115. Okay, the square root of that is going to be 10 point, sorry about that, 10.7238. 10.7238. So y will just basically be, let's say, 10.7 centimeters. And that's approximately that. With that, I've come to the end of this particular video. See you in my next video. Bye.